When Kirt Schneider was 20 years old, he went to bed with a pounding headache. Hours later, he woke up in what he called a heightened state of awareness. And there he saw Jesus on the cross and a red light beaming down from heaven. The experience only lasted for a few seconds, and yet it changed his life forever.
Messianic Rabbi Kirt Schneider made news in 2019. He asked people in Times Square to respond to questions like, "Why am I here? And is this all there is?" Schneider was raised in a devoutly Jewish family and met Jesus in a vision when he was 20. His shocked parents hired a deprogrammer and a psychiatrist to attempt to set their son straight. In his latest book, Called to Breakthrough, Rabbi Schneider shares how he found his life purpose, despite great personal cost, in proclaiming the Jewish Jesus.
Well, Rabbi Kirt Schneider joins us now via Skype. And Rabbi, welcome to the show.
Shalom, my brother. God bless you, and thank you so much for having me, Gordon.
All right, thanks for joining us. You grew up a nice Jewish boy. At the same time, you're reading about Indian gurus. So why were you doing that? What were you looking for?
Well, I was entering, I had a huge identity crisis when I was 18 years old. I wrestled all through school. I started in 7th grade, Gordon, and every year that I aged, I became more and more committed to the sport. So I became like a professional athlete. I trained all year long, and that's who I was in my identity. I was Kirt Schneider, the wrestler. I lived it, ate it, drank it, slept it. It was my universe. And when I walked off the wrestling mat after wrestling my last match in high school, although I had a small scholarship to wrestle at college at the University of Tampa, I realized that the world that I was entering into now as an adult was much bigger than the world that I lived in up through my last match in high school. Suddenly I went from feeling like I was in control, because my world was people that wrestled my weight class, and in that environment I felt in control. But when I recognized that I was entering as an adult now into the wider world and that I wasn't in control, I didn't know who I was anymore, and that's why I was searching, and that's why I was searching for an answer in reading about an Indian guru.
All right. Well, you then had a profound encounter. Could you tell us about that? What did you experience?
Well, I was in the middle of reading this book, Gordon, called Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda. And there were pictures in the book of this guy supposedly levitating off the ground. And I always believed in God. I said, God, if that's real, if this guy can really levitate off the ground, that's what I want to do with my life. I found my new wrestling. I found my new goal. So right in the middle of this, I went to sleep. It was a hot August night, 1978. Keep in mind, no one had ever witnessed to me about Jesus. I had never read the New Testament. I'm a Jew. Jesus was not something I was attracted to at all. He was as far away to me as the man on the moon. But in that hot August night of 1978, the Lord awoke me from my sleep. Suddenly, I was aware that I was aware, and Jesus appeared to me in a vision. It was in color. Jesus was on the cross. As an American, Gordon, I knew enough to know the person on the cross was Yeshua or Jesus. There were people in the distance looking at him, and then all of a sudden, a ray of red light from straight through the sky beamed down on Jesus' head. And when I saw that ray of red light come down on his head, I knew the light was coming from God. I understood the symbolism, and that the Lord was showing me that Jesus was the way to him.
A lot of people might have dismissed that. So I have a saying that, you know, the dreams that come from God, you don't have them, they have you. What was it about this experience that so gripped you?
Well, that's a good question. I guess there's a scripture that says, in the day of God's power, man is made willing. It was just something that when it happened, I just instantly knew that God was alive, that he was real, that he loved me, that he had a plan and destiny for my life, and I never questioned it. Beyond that, I had several other very, very strong, dramatic, supernatural encounters over those next 3 years. So that if I could have doubted the first experience, the second experience and the third experience I had, I could have never doubted, because they were more than visions and even more than dreams. So the second experience I had, I would simply say this: if anybody saw what I saw, And what I saw was the Lord allowed me to see into the spirit world one night. It wasn't like I saw something like spirit. The Lord literally allowed me to see spirit. And I would say to anybody, if you saw what I saw, you would say what I'm saying. It was beyond anything that the human mind could have fabricated or created. I knew that what I saw was the reality of the dimension of what I was living in, this nature of life. So God confirmed the first experience, my salvation experience, by following it up with subsequent supernatural encounters.
Well, your parents didn't receive this news with joy. They actually tried to deprogram you, and then they put you into a psychiatric ward. How did you make it through all of that? Did you ever feel that, you made a mistake by letting people know?
I never did. And what's interesting about it, Gordon, all these years later, now I look at it and I think, I can't believe I wasn't mad at my parents. But I wasn't even mad at my parents at the time. I can't explain it. I just kind of went along with the process. The first thing they did was they hired the most famous deprogrammer in the country, Ted Patrick. You could search him online. He was actually arrested at one point for kidnapping children. By children, I mean he was being hired by parents to get their children out of believing, for example, in the Hare Krishna movement or whatever, but he was abducting them. That's what happened to me. My dad told me that we were going to talk to somebody about buying a restaurant. And when we went to the business meeting, it wasn't a business meeting. It was Ted Patrick and his two, assistants that were young guys, over 6 feet tall, over 200 pounds. They literally abducted me and then took me from Cleveland, Ohio to California, where they had their rehabilitation home set up. They kept me there for a little over 2 weeks, took me to the bars in the night and the beach in the day. And I guess they thought that if they could just get me away from whoever they felt was programming me, I'd snap back out of it and come to my senses. But obviously, that wasn't going to work because Jesus was the one that had come to me.
They're playing the music. We could talk for a long time. If you want your breakthrough, you can find out more in Rabbi Schneider's story. It's in his brand new autobiography. It's called Breakthrough. It's available nationwide.